everybody, I hope you're doing really well today. I'd like to welcome you back to Alfred's Basic Adult Piano Course, Lesson Book Level 1. This video is Lesson 70. We're going to cover page 80 in the book today, the key of A minor. So this lesson is going to introduce you to your first minor scale, A minor. You've already learned a couple of major scales, C major, G major, and F major. So A minor is relative of C major, which it says there at the very top. So what does that mean exactly? Well, let's keep reading. It says every major key has a relative minor key that has the same key signature. So A minor, just like C major, has 0 sharps and 0 flats. And this is going to be the case of all our minor scales, which we'll eventually learn more later on, not today. But for every minor scale, there is a relative major scale, meaning they both share the same key signature. So for example, G major has 1 sharp. The relative minor to G major is E minor, which has 1 sharp. Okay? But you don't need to know that today. We're just going to focus on A minor. And A minor is really easy because just like C major, it doesn't have any sharps or flats. So just like C major, you're going to be playing all white keys on the piano when you play the scale. Now it shows us this diagram of the C major scale and the A minor scale right below it. And it shows us in this pink box that the 6th note of the C major scale is the first note of your A minor scale. This is also true of all major scales. The 6th note of every major scale is the starting note for a minor scale. Now, what I recommend is, these are basically, this is basically how we get there, right? But what I recommend you do is memorize, just like any of this. Memorization is the best. So that means when I see A minor, and I'm going to play an A minor scale, I'm thinking automatically I've memorized no sharps, no flats. It starts on A. It goes from A to A. And of course the fingering too, which we'll get to in a moment. So I want to memorize that because that skips the step or the steps it takes to say, well, let me think. C major scale, the 6th note is A. Okay, so I'm going to start on A. C major has 0 sharps or flats, so A minor has 0 sharps or flats. So you see where I'm going with this? So it's good to know both. You want to memorize. Ultimately, that's going to get you there faster. But if you get stuck, if you forget, it's also good to have this rule, this commonality between minor scales and major scales, that for every minor scale there is a relative major. They share the same key signature. Now someday, if you decide to go on to composing or really studying up on how music works, this information is great because that's a great way to go from like writing in C major and then transposing into A minor very easily, with that shared key signature. So that's information there that could be helpful to that someday as well. So the A minor scale that we are learning here, first off, at the top, is called the natural minor scale. So it says there at the middle of the page, just above A harmonic minor scale, it says the minor scale shown above is called the natural minor scale. It uses only notes that are found in the relative major scale. So here's the thing about minor scales. Unlike major scales, there's just one scale you play. Now you can play as many octaves as you want. You can play it in any direction you want. But there's only one scale. For minor scales, there are actually 3 different minor scales, or 3 forms, or varieties, if you will, for every minor scale. So what we've determined here, the relative to C major's A minor, is that's just the natural minor scale. No alterations, you're just playing from A to A. Okay? So that's very useful, very helpful to know that, of course. But sometimes it's not the most common form used in music. Often I see the most common form is what we're going to learn here in the middle of the page, the A harmonic minor scale, harmonic minor. So you want to memorize this. So there's the natural minor, which just has the original key signature. There's harmonic minor, which raises the 7th note. Okay, so let's look at that. It says there, the most frequently used minor scale, so there it is the harmonic minor. In this scale, the 7th tone is raised, ascending, and descending. So what that means is when I play my scale going up the piano, ascending, and here's A minor, for example, I'm going to raise the 7th tone. Now there's a 7th tone, it's G. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So instead of playing the G, I'm going to play the next key to the right. So you're sharping it is what you're doing, and in this case it's G sharp. And then I'll finish off on A. And then when you come back down the scale, you're going to sharp it as well. Now when you go down, don't accidentally hit G. You're going to do a little skip here to F. And then finish it up. So that's called harmonic minor when the 7th is raised. Now you won't see it in the key signature. You'll see it, it has to be written in. Those sharps have to be written in. So it says the raised 7th in the key of A minor is G sharp, which we just talked about. And it says here, it is not included in the key signature, but is written in as an accidental sharp each time it occurs. So here it says, practice the A harmonic minor scale with hands separate. Begin slowly. Now it's interesting, they don't have us playing the natural minor scale at all. And I understand that that's because the natural minor isn't maybe as common as harmonic minor. But in my experience, it's still pretty common. It depends on the style of music. I think a lot of pop music would use the natural minor scale. More folk music and other styles, I think will use the harmonic minor, as well as even classical perhaps. So it's really good to know both. And the other reason for doing the natural minor right away is just to get used to the basic 7 notes. So what I want to do first is, before we look at the harmonic minor, let's just review the natural minor. So we're going to start with just the right hand. I'm going to start on the A above middle C. So here's our middle C. And we're just going to play A to A, 1 octave, natural minor, so no sharps, no flats. Now as we go along, you'll notice that this happens to be the same fingering as C major. That's not always the case. In other words, just because it's a relative key doesn't mean it always will have the same fingering. So that's really important. It will have the same key signature, but not always the same fingering. We just get lucky with this one. So A minor, natural minor, is going to be A with your thumb, 2 on B, 3 on C. Here's the cross under. Thumb under to D. And then 2 on E, 3 on F, 4 on G, and then 5 on A. And you're going to come right back down. G, F, E, get that thumb on D, and then cross over. And remember, you're going to cross to 3 on C, so you can end up with your thumb on A. So just remember, when you come down, don't cross to 4, because then you'll have an extra finger. You might think, well, it's fine, I ended there. Yeah, but if we go another octave, because our goal eventually on piano is to do multiple octaves, it'll really mess up the fingering. But we're just going to do 1 octave for now. Now in the left hand, what I like to do is start on the A below middle C. And we're going to go down, actually. We're going to descend. So the thumb's on A, the 2's on G, 3's on F. Now you're going to take your thumb and come under to E. And then 2 on D, 3 on C, 4 on B, and 5 on A. And then we're going to come right back up. And when you get to the F, cross to 3. And then you'll end up with your thumb on A. So that's the natural minor scale, A minor. Very easy because it's just like C major, but you're starting on A. Now notice the sound of the minor scale. This is important too. Major scales. So there's C major. They have a brighter sound, maybe a happier sound. Minor scales It's not quite as bright, right? It's a little more moody. So anything minor, whether it's chords or scales, tends to be a little more moody, a little bit darker sound. Some people would say, major's happy and minor's sad. Sure, you could do that. I tend to think of minor as having more varied emotions. In fact, there's a lot of beautiful music out there written in minor keys. Now let's look at the harmonic minor scale, and this is the example at the bottom of the page. So notice the key signature. It says key of A minor. Now how would you know that's key of A minor? Because one could say, well, we're in C major, no sharps and flats. But look at the last note. The last note is an A. So that's kind of a dead giveaway. Now the first note's an A too, and I know this is the scale, but what I look for in a piece of music, now this works most of the time, not always, there's always exceptions, but most of the time, if you look at the key signature and see no sharps and flats and think, this is C major, now you might be thinking, well, it could be A minor. Which one? Go to the end of the piece, look in the bass clef, at the very last note in the bass clef. And if you have a bunch of notes, like a chord in the bass clef, look at the lowest note. If it's an A, then you're in A minor. If it's a C, you're in C major. Now, like I said, it doesn't work 100% of the time, but about 90% of the time it does work. So that's helpful. Now, in the case of A harmonic minor, if you have a piece of music, it's got no sharps, no flats, and you start seeing G sharps everywhere, then you know, okay, that's a harmonic minor scale they use. They started writing in these G sharps, the Ray 7s. All right, so looking at the right hand in the example down below, we're going to start on the same A we did earlier. Everything's the same except instead of a G, you're going to hit a G sharp. But it's going to feel a little different because of the sort of off balanced. You know, when you played all white keys, it was equally balanced. But watch here as we come up to the G, that fourth finger is going to come over to G sharp, and then the fifth finger squeezes on the A. So that's the hardest thing about this, is it's not quite balanced like it was. Coming back down, there's your 4 on G sharp, and you got this little skip. It's technically not a skip, but it feels like a skip because it's off balance. The 3 on the F. Once you get to the thumb, cross to 3 on C. So again, the same exact fingering as natural minor. It's just getting used to this G sharp. So that's what you're going to want to really practice. In the left hand, we start on this A below middle C and we're going down. So what that means is right away, we're hitting the G sharp. That's tricky too. You don't want that to sneak up on you because we're thinking 7th note is raised, right? So I got to go through my scale and the second to last note would be affected. Yeah, if you're going up, ascending, but if you're descending, going backwards, that's the second note now. So that sneaks up on you. So be careful about that. And then, like I said, the third finger is going to stretch a little bit. And then right after that, that thumb comes under to E. And then just finish it out with the fingering all the way down to A. And then come back up. Cross the third finger to F. And then there's our G sharp, so that second finger comes over. And then there's the thumb on A. So that's my biggest advice, is practicing the feel of the harmonic minor scale. And again, remember, you will not ever see harmonic minor written in a key signature. So when dealing with A minor, and we will in the next lesson on Jericho on page 81, you can see the key signature there. If you take a peek now, no sharps, no flats. But look at the second note in the right hand is a G sharp. I see a few G sharps written throughout the piece. So that lets me know that there's elements of the harmonic minor scale. I say elements because a lot of times you'll see it go back and forth. Actually, in Jericho, I'm only seeing G sharps, but I'll see pieces of music where they're G naturals and then G sharps and back to naturals. That just means they're playing with both minor scales, the natural minor and the harmonic minor. So you may see that as well. So it's useful to practice the harmonic minor scale because it will help you remember, in this case, those G sharps when you play a piece that has a lot of G sharps. But it's good to know the natural minor scale too. I would personally do the natural minor and the harmonic. There is a third version, which is not even being mentioned in this book, called melodic. That one is really weird. And it is used in music, I would say sparingly though. But that scale consists of raising the sixth and seventh notes when ascending and then playing them naturally or natural when descending. So it's really bizarre that in that manner, and they do exist and they're useful, but not that useful, not right now. And it's just that's a lot to have to learn. So this would be plenty right here. Now it says at the bottom, after you've learned a harmonic minor scale with hands separate, you may play the hands together in contrary motion. That would be incredible to do that. The great news about it is the fingers, when you go opposite directions, contrary motion. I think we went through this when we did the few major scales. It's the same exact fingering. You cross under in the same time. So if you're going up together, hands together, that's really hard. And that's for another time because the hands will cross at different times. So let's try that. So I'm going to start with my thumbs on A's, 1 octave apart. And I'm just reading the bottom together as I do this. But what's still tricky about it is even though the next notes are the same finger, the two, notice it feels off. I got a G sharp here in my left hand. I got the B natural in my right hand, which is a white key. So that feels a little off balance. And then when I go to my third finger in the right hand, C, it's right there. It's very close, but not the case in the left hand. It even sounds weird when I do it like that. Got to get used to the sounds of this scale. Now both thumbs cross under. E in the left hand, D in the right hand. Now once you're there, you're kind of home free because it's the next 5 fingers all the way up to A, or down to A. Now when you get to your fourth finger, it's B, a white key in the left hand, G sharp, a black key in the right hand, and then you end with 5 on A's. Coming back, remember that fourth finger in the right hand's on G sharp, 4 on B in the left hand. So keep going until you hit your thumbs, and then cross to the third finger in both hands, still white keys, but then the G sharp in the left hand, B natural right hand. Now when you're learning the scales, you don't really have to read the music. I think it's much better to focus down on the keys. Scales are really just about that. It's about focusing on the keys, the fingering. It's not really so much about reading. It's about exercising down here. That being said, another thing that will help you visually down here is for the G sharp. Instead of just saying G sharp all the time, which is good, but you can also visually look for the middle black key in the 3 black key group. So if you aim for that visual might make it a little bit easier. I think the tendency is for some people is to want to hit this F sharp because they're thinking about the black key and the black three black key group, but it's almost like, well, I forgot that this was G sharp. And so if you aim for the middle one, I think that will make a huge difference. I believe that's it for this lesson. So in addition to the harmonic minor scale, don't be afraid to play the natural minor scale, especially when you're first learning it. I think jumping right into the harmonic minor is going to be a little difficult. However, the natural minor is pretty easy, I think, because it's the same fingering and same notes as C major. You're just starting on A. The sound is different, so the sound can throw you off a little bit too. So do work on that. Do learn that. Because in Jericho on page 81 in our next lesson, we will be applying it. We'll be applying these notes. So I don't see, well, there's some scale-like patterns in there, but I do see those G sharps. So you definitely want to focus on the harmonic minor scale for that lesson. All right, once again, thanks so much for following, and I wish you all the best. And I do look forward to seeing you in that next lesson.